All right, everybody. I am here with Patricia Tallman, who you may know from Night of the Living Dead, 1990, Babylon 5, so many things. But as I start all these interviews, she can do a heck of a lot better job telling you about herself than I could. So, Pat, could you tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, okay. Gosh. Yes. So I think I'm best known for those two shows that you mentioned, Night of the Living Dead, 1990, the one that Tom Savini directed, and Babylon 5, the series that's sci-fi. I've also done a ton of Star Trek, Army of Darkness. I was the witch at the cauldron, and Bruce Campbell shoots me about 15 times. And some various things like that. I've done stunts on things like Austin Powers, Jurassic Park, Star Trek, Generations. Anyway, yeah, I've been really fortunate to be one of those working actors that you may not know, but you might, somebody says, oh yeah, that person that was in Night of the Living Dead. And then, oh yeah. Okay, got it. And I've been able to make a living doing what I love.
And you started, as you mentioned, you started in stunts. Like, how does one get into stunt work, and and what is that like to be a stunt person?
I fell into it. Oh, boom. I actually started as an actor. I was a kid acting. I started professionally at 15, and then I went to school in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon for acting. I was living and working in New York City when I first became aware of stunt people. I remember thinking, that's a career? Oh, what a weird thing to do for a living, But I was always a very physical person, and I was taking classes in New York, period sword technique classes, because nerd. I'm a huge nerd. And I met people there that were doing a lot of stunts. And one day, one of the guys said, hey, I'm coordinating this stunt scene. And I need someone to double our actress. So she's got red hair. She's 5'9". I think you'd be a good double for her. Would you do it? And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't know, but I went, I fell down some stairs. I of course, wearing lingerie, because women are always in peril in their underwear, and so there's no place to put any pads. And I made like $1,200 by the end of the day, and I was blown away. It would take me a month working in the little girls department at Macy's to make that kind of money, And it was in my union, and obviously it's also in our business. So it just turned out to be a really good fit, a weird thing to do, but a really good fit. And I started meeting stunt people, and that became my bread and butter job instead of waiting tables, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that I find so fascinating of all of your stunt work, you were Laura Dern's stunt double in Jurassic Park, which, I think you told a story that when they're falling off the dinosaur at the end, and, the bones are falling on what we think is Laura Dern, that's actually you, right?
Right. I loved doubling Laura. Laura's an exceptional person. I've worked for a lot of people. They say don't meet your heroes, right? And that can be true, but I've also met like Tom Hanks, who's a hero of mine, and he was fantastic. And Laura Dern is definitely one of those fantastic people, just lovely, down to earth, real. I ran into her at a big Hollywood party that I felt like I had no business being at, one of those, I'm out of my skin, I don't know what I'm doing here. There's Helen Mirren just walked by, and it's like everywhere you look, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio, okay. I was in one of those moments, and Laura was standing sort of in the middle of the room receiving a lot of congratulations for her Golden Globe nomination. And I kind of waited back because I wanted to say congratulations. It was for her show called Enlightened. She was brilliant in it. She wouldn't know who I was. I mean, she never saw me without her wig on me. She never saw what I looked like, right? Because I was always done in hair and makeup before I saw her. But she caught my eye, and she was talking to Julianne Moore. And she said, oh, Hi, Patricia. Julianne. Patricia was my stunt double on Jurassic Park. How are you? And Julianne Moore turned around and gave me the worst look. She was just gave me the stink eye, like, how dare you interrupt us? And I just was, oh my God, this is so great that you, I didn't say this, but that you even know who I am. I was blown away by that. And I was like, get out of my way, shorty, because Julianne Moore is about 5 foot tall. That's Laura and I are 5'9", way up here. It was so great. That's the kind of person she is. She just, connects down real. I loved working on Jurassic Park. We had no idea we were making quote unquote Jurassic Park. We were working at a Spielberg film, sure, which meant massive budget, big stars. But we didn't know what the dinosaurs looked like. No one had ever seen that. If you can push your mind back to the 90s, we hadn't seen those kind of effects. So we're our stunt coordinator had a little. I'm looking around like I have a bag. He'd had a little bag, and in the bag he had some plastic dinosaurs, the little kid size plastic dinosaurs. Sometimes he'd have little army men in there, and he had matchbox cars, and he would block out our action. So one of our scenes was the T-Rex bursts out of the jungle and starts chasing the Jeep. And Jeff Goldblum's in the back with his leg all mangled, and Laura hops in on one side, and the T-Rex chases the Jeep, and then it lowers its head and it hits the Jeep with the side of its head, causing the Jeep to almost flip over. And our heroes make their escape. Well, that was all stunt people. So, but we didn't have a T-Rex. So Gary's laying out. Gary Himes was our stunt coordinator. He's laying out the action using the Matchbox car, and he uses a toy T-Rex, and he's like, and then the Jeep is going to go through the branch here, and here comes the T-Rex. Grr, arg. And we're like, all these adults are sitting around going, oh wow, that's amazing. Okay, great. And then the T-Rex is going to hit the Jeep. Pat, that's going to be you. Okay, so we get in the Jeep. And Spielberg is in the camera truck, which is going to be just off our right front bumper. And then there's these guys. So Spielberg says, Pat, see that guy? And I'm like, yeah, the guy. And he's got this big stick. And he says, okay, the stick is metered off, black, white, painted black and white up like every 3 feet is black or white, checkerboard. And at the very top, about 15 feet up, is a circle of cardboard nailed to the top of the stick. And it has a happy face with teeth on it. That was the T-Rex. So the effects guys could put it in later. And what happened was they did this, they filmed the effects guys walking with the stick in different positions. And then they showed me what the action would be. And I was to take Spielberg's cue. So the action is, when we hit action, the Jeep and the camera truck start rolling forward at a particular speed. And then we are going to bust through the breakaway log. So we all have to duck at the right moment to not get decapitated. And then I'm supposed to whip around as Laura. I'm looking behind me at the T-Rex, which is no longer there, but I've been given a mark to look at. So I know where my eye line is supposed to be at that point. And then I have 3 eye lines, 1, 2, and 3. The last eye line is when the T-Rex is hitting the Jeep with its head. So obviously I'm looking down to the right where this T-Rex is going to knock the door into my legs. And they've got a special effect where it's going to implode at the right moment. I have to react at the exact right moment. The T-Rex, which is not there, the ghost T-Rex is going to hit the door. The door will concave in as if it's been hit. And we have an explosive device in the middle of the Jeep with a piece of a telephone pole. And when that all happens at the right moment, they're going to fire that explosion, which shoots that telephone pole down into the ground, making the Jeep go up on the left 2 side wheels so that it looks like we're about to flip over. And of course, we're all hoping we really don't flip over. There's no way to kind of test this until you do it. So basically we shoot the rehearsal and hope that it works. But these guys are the best in the business. So, and it went off without a hitch, thank God. But I had the most amazing experience of being directed by Steven Spielberg, talking to me with using my name and saying, okay, Pat, and we're rolling along now. And he, okay, everybody duck. And we have to duck. The branch breaks. And then he says, Pat, 1. And I'm looking at my 1 mark. And he goes 2. And I look at the 2 mark. And then he says 3. And we all gear up for the final T-Rex hit. And it was so fun. I mean, it's nerve-wracking as hell, but it was so fun to be on something like that. I got to do that. Yeah, like you said, the last scene in the rotunda with being chased by the raptors down the scaffolding, and then the T-Rex comes in and saves the day. That bloody T-Rex is coming. I have a whole relationship. I have a storyline with this T-Rex that didn't exist.
Well, speaking of iconic directors, one of your early big breaks was Knight Riders, which was that where your relationship with George Romero, that your ongoing relationship with George Romero as a filmmaker to actor started, or? Exactly right.
I was right out of Carnegie Mellon, just fresh out of school. And I moved that summer, to New York City. And my friends who are all, from Carnegie, and George had gone to Carnegie, were talking about, oh, George is doing this movie. And I'd never met George, but of course I knew who he was. And I managed to wrangle an audition with a casting director I did not know. And I don't remember too much about the actual audition, except that George was very kind and he gave me some direction. So it immediately made me less nervous because I got to act. I'm used to working with directors. I'm not used to pretending I know what the hell I'm doing with this scene in my hands, So being a very green actress at the age of 21.
And the Romero thing, it's kind of, once you're in your family, and like, as you did stunts on Creepshow 2, you were, and of course now I'm blanking. I mean, Night of the Living Dead 1990, he was, adjacent to that and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's nice to have, good partnerships with good people.
It really is, though, the only time in my life that worked out that way. Yeah, he was quite remarkable that way. And I loved everybody else in the family, as you say. Yeah, it was a good group of people, his crew, the other actors, everybody was, I think that's part of George's vibe. They were all good working people. Nobody was a prick,
Well, speaking of that and Night of the Living Dead, and one of the things you're probably most known for, and Babylon 5 fans, please don't, chew me out here, is Night of the Living Dead 1990, which I actually saw before the 68 one, because my small video rental store in town, they had little thin, things, and there was a horror section, and for whatever reason, they had the 1991 before the 68 one. So I saw your Night of the Living Dead before I saw the 68.
Oh my, cool.
Yeah, so I absolutely love that film. I'm gonna be a little bit of a fanboy here, but yeah, what was that like? Not just getting the lead role of Barbara, but then having to know that you're following the 68 version.
I tried not to think about that. Luckily, George wrote the script for the 1990 version, and he was the executive producer on it. And he also came in, he was around. So I feel like George he was the big friendly ghost in the room, helping us, supporting us, keeping us grounded, if you were. Savini is an amazing director. So we had a great experience on it. Let's see, what was it you said? You asked me, you said, what was it like being a part of something that was iconic? That kind of idea? Yeah. Right. I know that a couple of the other actors had felt some pressure on that. Luckily, I didn't. I can't explain why. I was so focused on my character and her development that I was able to not deal with the fact that we were remaking an iconic classic. And I just didn't worry about it. Thank goodness because it allowed me to really just stay in the moment and stay connected to my castmates and what we were doing. I know that, as we went through the production, Savini would be mentioning things like this is a callback to the original, where something would happen, or this kind of scare would happen, and people are waiting for this transition, and we're going to mess with them, that kind of thing. So I was very aware of those kinds of things, but I didn't take on the burden of, oh my God, what if we fail? I'm so blessed that I didn't go in that direction, because that can mess you up as an actor big time. And then you're worried about something that's not going to serve you at all. Right. And I think we were really, really, considering the team that put that film together, having actors of the caliber of Tony Todd and Bill Moseley and Bill Butler, Katie Finneran, who became a big Broadway star, Mickey Anderson, Tom Tolles. We had a solid cast. That's one of, I think, Tom's gifts, was that he put together this cast with great chemistry. And so we came up with something we're still proud of to this day. That's not guaranteed ever. You doesn't matter how you've seen movies where they've had all the money in the world and they put in these stars and the movie just doesn't quite make it, it doesn't work. And that's that magic that's really hard to quantify. You can't guarantee it. You just can't. So we were blessed.
Well, one thing I do love about, the 1990 version is your take on Barbara, because she actually has like grit and spunk, and she's, she could take care of herself. Like when I saw the 68 one, I thought, this isn't Barbara. Barbara's like cool and badass. Like, what is she doing?
But see, at 68, that was appropriate.
Right.
That was the trope back then, that women went into, instead of fight or flight, they sometimes went into freeze, and they would just panic or I think that's it's a very realistic reaction. If you're faced with something your mind just cannot get a grip on, people just freeze. So that was appropriate. But what was appropriate for the 1990 version is by the 80s, we'd seen Sigourney Weaver, right? We'd started to see Terminator. We started to see a shift, and women didn't want to be portrayed that way. I wouldn't have taken the part if Barbara was the same. It just wasn't me. There was no bone in my body that I could have made that real and right. I think Judy O'Day is incredible. She's an amazing actress. She did a great job. I'm so, I really, well, here you go again. It's Tom Savini. He knew me, and he knew me, as an actor, and he knew that that's where I could go, that was appropriate for me. It was great casting for me. So I'm just, really, really blessed, very grateful for all those kind of points converging to give me a chance to be an action star, but a realistic one.
To ask you about another actor, because I'm going to be interviewing him in the near future. What was it like? Because I'll ask him the same thing about you. What was it like working with Tony Todd?
Tony, he's the best. He's just kind of what you'd expect, I think. He has an aura that is very, it can be very intimidating. He's, big and imposing. He's got that voice and he's got that gravitas, right? But in person, he's got heart. He has tons of compassion. I have a mischievous streak in me, and I would poke fun in like I would try to scare him. We worked for 4 weeks at night, and our green room, our trailer was an old barn that they hung shower curtains up in between the stalls to give us a changing room that we could have some privacy in. And they put some cots out there. We had an old rancid couch out there, and we just made it our home. And Tony we all would catch a few Z's if we had time. If we're not in a scene, we might have 2 hours where we could take a nap. So whenever Tony was taking a nap, I planned on some very creative ways of waking him up. which always involved some little nasty, stuffed animal. The house was full, those taxidermy beings on the wall, and they were really there. They were part of the house. And so I would appropriate one and just do terrible things to Tony. And he always was gracious and he'd laugh. And, he was great. He was very great. Plus, he's an inspiration. I think I had respect for all of the actors on that set, which doesn't happen a lot, by the way. I mean, usually there's a few weak links, or there's some people that are just unpleasant, shall we say, to work with. There was nobody who was weak in that cast. Everybody was wonderful in their own unique way.
You had brought up at the very top here, Army of Darkness. Now, as an actor, what is it like working under that much makeup and prosthetics? How is that as an actor?
No, it's hell. It really is hell. Again, hopefully you get a really good makeup team that knows exactly how to take care of you, because you can't really take care of yourself. I look at actors like Doug Jones, who specializes in wearing makeup and being in some of the most constricting suits, for example, that I admire that so much. I would say that 80% of humanity could not be in that kind of makeup or suit for very long. I certainly couldn't do a character, what's the word, long term, over an entire shoot that with that much garb on. It's not only uncomfortable, it's claustrophobic. Your skin starts to react. All kinds of nasty rashes will occur. It's just your body's not made to be covered up like that with glue. But the makeup crew was so awesome. That's K&B Effects, the best in the business, them and Optic Nerve. And they took really good care of me. Plus, I was really only in that much makeup for one long 17-hour day. And that was a blessing as well. Plus, it's so funny. I was just talking about this. We that makeup, K&B hired me I was starving. And I was calling all my friends, do you have any work? I'm starving. I need to. So K&B, Greg and Howard said, yeah, we got something we can throw at you. It turns out we're doing this movie for Sam Raimi, and we need to build an army, and you're tall and skinny, so we could cast your body and we'll build the puppets on your body. I'm like, great. They paid me a day rate. I came in. They cast me. I had to lay there in foam and gel and plaster of Paris in various stages. And then they said, hey, they're casting this witch, and you've got a really good shot at getting it. So they got me the audition. I got to audition for Rob Tappert, who was Sam's producer, and got the part of, we call her She Bitch. There was the line from Ash, who is Bruce Campbell, goes, yo, She Bitch, let's go. So we called her She Bitch. And they said, okay, now that we've got you that part, we got another part for you. It's another film called The Nutty Nut, and we can use that same makeup, but we'll make you, instead of a supernatural witch character, we're going to make you just into a really, really, really old lady. All this figure, that one makeup turned out to serve me very well, very well. That's a long-winded, I don't know what that was, tangent that I just went on there.
It was great. But, Babylon 5, you're obviously known for, but there's also other space programs you're known for in the Star Trek universe. Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Next Gen. What is it like being in the Star Trek universe? But those shows are different from one another. Like, how is it going between this show and that show and this show?
Oh, what a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me it like that before. It was very apparent. Like when I went on, I started on Next Gen. I became part of what we called the Star Trek stunt team. We had one stunt coordinator, and he hired his friends, people he trusted to do as many stunts as possible. And I was a really good size to double a lot of our guest stars. I doubled Gates McFadden. I doubled Michelle Rowe. Or is that right? She was Ensign Rowe, Michelle Forbes, sorry. And of course, Nana Visitor on Deep Space Nine and Terry Farrell. But what I started with Next Generation, that show was already established, right? So it had been running for a couple years. I came in, I was a newbie when I came in and met Dennis Matalone and became part of the stunt team after he started to trust me. And I loved that set, but it took me a while to become part of the not family, maybe like I was on Babylon 5, but at least I was part of the regular crew. And everyone knew me and I knew them. And it was really nice. It's a nice feeling. When we started Deep Space Nine, we started that show from the very tippy top. We started at the first production meetings before they'd ever shot a scene. So it was a different vibe being a part of a show from the very beginning. We're all new together. That's a brand new cast, and we built that all together. So it's hard to describe the feeling, but I can tell you that there's a difference between stepping onto a production that's established to stepping into something that's brand new and you're helping to establish it. Same thing with Voyager. We were part of the planning of it. We worked together to create it. I wasn't a good double for any of the regulars on that show. Jerry Ryan, I don't think she really needed much of a stunt double, but she's a different physical type than I am. She's smaller and thinner, tiny. And I did do guest star stuff on that. I not only doubled guest star stuff, I had my own little roles sometimes. So it wasn't a show I felt as part of. I wasn't deeply involved in that show as much. But Deep Space Nine and Next Generation became very close to my heart. And when Next Generation made their first movie was called Star Trek Generations. I very much wanted to be a part of that. But film is different than television. So we had a different stunt coordinator and a different production team. And there was probably no way I was going to be able to be a part of it. Then they ended up hiring a stunt coordinator who I work with all the time, named Bud Davis, who also did all the Austin Powers. And, he'd hired me a lot. So he said, Patty, I know you're part of, you've been part of this. I want you to come in on the team. I've got this role and I've got this stunt and I've got that stunt. So I ended up all over that set. I was Gates McFadden's double. I was one of the Klingon sisters double. I was what we call ND or nondescript. I was on the bridge when we were blowing it up as a red shirt, and then Bud had to go to Las Vegas with William Shatner and Patrick Stewart to shoot a big scene in the rocks towards the end. And he put me in charge of the set on the day that we crashed the Enterprise. So you can blame the crash of the Enterprise on me. And I was one of the only people, I think I was the only person who's left alive anyway, who was on the Enterprise firing on the Klingon ship and was on the Klingon ship firing on the Enterprise. So I was Bator on the Klingon ship firing over here on the Enterprise. And I'm you can see me, and mostly under Jonathan Frakes' feet, where rolling around being blown, and as a red shirt with my short hair. Yeah, it was so, wow, that was a lot of, again, tangents. I'm good at going off on tangents.
No, that's what people are here for. That's what they want. All right. Well, for all of you out there thinking, when is he going to get to Babylon 5? Let's jump into it. How did you secure that, and what was it like knowing that here's going to be some consistent work? It's not a one-off movie, or something like that.
Right. The creator of, I'll tell the audition story. So I get the script to audition through my agent for Babylon 5. She said, it's a science fiction thing. You love sci-fi. Take a look at it. And in those days, we actually got the whole script, which was unusual. And it was amazing. And I thought, I'll never get this part. It's got to go to a star. But yay, I get to audition. I get to act. That's great. So I go in and I'm in the room. There's only one other actor in the room. Often the room is crowded. but there was only one other actor there. The room was there was a doorway at the other end of the room that led to the inner offices where they were doing the actual reading of auditions. So this actor and I are kind of giving each other space, and you have sides, which are just scenes, the lines from the scenes, and you're going to be reading just these couple of scenes for your audition. So we're both kind of immersed in our sides, getting it into our heads and our bodies so we could do the best performance on our feet when we walk into that room. When this big guy dressed all in black kind of fills the whole doorway, that inner doorway, and he says, "Patricia Tallman." And I'm like, "Yes." And he says, "I'm Joe Straczynski. I wrote the part for you. Good luck." And he leaves. And the other actor looked at me and goes, "No pressure, huh?" And I just, the rest of the audition's kind of a blur, because what the fuck does that mean? What just happened? What do you mean he wrote the part for me, right? Turns out he loved Night of the Living Dead 1990, and he loved the character of Barbara, and he created this character called Lita Alexander based on that performance. So I did get the part. Thank God. But nothing's guaranteed in Hollywood. And we shot the pilot, which was great. Then we went into contract negotiations. So from the time we shot the pilot to the time we got picked up was about a year, which is a long time for this kind of stuff. But B5 was going to have a rough go for its 5-year arc. And we went into negotiations for the series. Something started going south for me in those negotiations, and I couldn't figure out what happened. But long story short, there was a producer at Warner Brothers who I had known from my days at Carnegie Mellon. And when I came to LA, he kind of was trying to get in my pants. He's married. So no, not interested, pal. Anyway, he said, "Okay, I'm going to get my revenge on you." And he screwed my negotiations so that I didn't get in the first season. It was devastating for me. I can't even tell you. It's horrible. But the interesting thing to me is kind of how the universe steps up and takes care of people. It was that next year, even though I was devastated by not getting the series, I got Jurassic Park, Forrest Gump. I've got some of the biggest movies I'd ever worked on as a stunt person. I ended up pregnant. I had a baby. So all these huge life things happened, and I was completely supported. I made the best money I'd ever made. All this crazy stuff. Like, you could never predict this. Then season 2, I get a call one day. It's Joe Straczynski. He says, "Hi, Pat, it's Joe Straczynski. I you remember?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, I remember who you are." He said, "Andrea Thompson's going to leave the show, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in coming back." And I was like, "Let me think." Yes. So he snuck me back in as a guest star for the first few episodes back, because that did not require producer approval from Warner Brothers. So this guy couldn't come in and screw me up. And then for season 3, he was able to make me a recurring regular, which also did not require that same level of approval. And that's how I got back on the show. It's really interesting. It was really interesting, kind of a typical Hollywood situation. But to go back to your comment about the differences between shows, so I'm on Babylon 5 as an actor now, back by season 2. And I'm working on Deep Space Nine, like almost full time. And I'm trying to blend these. I don't want to turn down a job. I don't want to, you never know when you're going to get that next job. I have a book out called Pleasure Thresholds, and I talk about how much money I was making. So you can see, it's really a book about what it's like to be a working actor and stunt person. You can see, yeah, I don't make enough money to on Babylon 5 or as a stunt person. I need both of those incomes, especially now I'm a single mom. So I had this really interesting, tight knit family on Babylon 5. And then over here in Star Trek, we have this big corporation, we have Paramount. And the suits, you're right on a lot. You belong to a gym. There's a restaurant on the lot. It's this polished machine, and it's really fabulous. It's so fun. Then you go to Babylon 5. We have a makeshift studio set up in an old warehouse in Sunland. Sunland is like the recycling center of Southern California. And we're right next door to a recycling dump. Not glamorous, the opposite of glamorous. And we didn't have suits on the set. So Warner Brothers wasn't coming over and hanging out with us, which was awesome. So I had this beautiful kind of creative family with Babylon 5. And then I had this fantastic, polished Hollywood experience with the Star Trek series. Really interesting.
And what is it like playing a reoccurring character as, say, opposed to one-off movie? How is that a different approach?
That's another really good question. I think it's for actors, it's if you're playing a recurring or a regular, you've got something to look forward to. You're going to work, and that's amazing. That doesn't occur in our business very much. I mean, even when you're on a movie, that's going to end. But with a series, you have a chance and with our contracts in general, that they often stipulate how many episodes you're going to be in, and they can couch that in various ways. But like my contract for season 3 is I was going to be into up to 13 episodes, so I knew that they were going to pay me for 13 episodes. Wow, that's nice. That's good to know. Whereas if you're in a film, okay, they've booked me for 4 weeks, or they booked me for 3 months, whatever it is, and then it's done. So the series is very cool. The one thing about series is, unless you have a multiple season deal, which is really rare, you know that at the end of the series, that season, that might be it. And with B5, we always thought that was it. We never had a guarantee for the next season. We wave goodbye, see ya. Hopefully we'll see you, in the spring. And we just never knew if we would. Sometimes we would find out, a month before, sometimes 4 months before. But yeah, we never knew. It was really interesting.
Can you tell us about Penny Lane?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yes, Penny Lane is a charity I've been working with for almost 30 years. They are a home for kids. They work with foster families. They have an adoption agency within the house now. They've been a residential home for children for 52 years now, I think. It's pretty incredible. So I have been a part of providing their Christmas for the kids. We call the program the Be a Santa program, and I raise money throughout the end of the fall into the Christmas season to give every kid a gift card. The kids I work with in particular are teenagers from 13 to 18. So they like to go shopping on their own. I've figured that out over the time. So I've been able to get them a gift card to our local mall, and they could go to any store in the mall and get what they need, whatever they want. And I think kids really appreciate that. So we do that. We also give them a big bag of stocking stuffer type stuff. I try to make sure they get something to read because I'm a real big advocate of children reading. Art supplies, obviously the candy and goodies part, and some things like puzzles, word search, things like that, that's good for the brain. And we often do something, if we can find them, a small game they can play on their own, also good for the brain. We provide the residential houses with decorations and food. And we put together a party for the kids. So it's been really gratifying and completely crowdsourced through the fans, completely. And 100% of all the funds or of any of the gifts you send in, it's all 100% for the kids. So there's no admin costs or anything like that. Yeah, but the fans have done this. It's been quite remarkable. We've been doing this for, like I said, almost 30 years. And, before crowdsourcing was a thing. Right. And before people even did that, it's kind of cool.
And obviously you've done really awesome stuff, acting and stunt work, but you also have another passion. Can you talk to us about quest retreats?
Oh yeah. Well, I love traveling, and part of traveling to me is because I really am a huge nerd. So I love to go to places that, first of all, are beautiful and full of nature. Wild animals are a big plus. Um, and like when I go to London, I want to experience my favorite stories. I want to experience Harry Potter, Doctor Who. I want to see where the Dickens characters. I want to see the ghost stories. I want to see the haunted places. I want to, that kind of stuff. So what I started to do was to put together trips for nerds like me who would want to do that, So I got tickets to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child so we could all see the West End original cast in the show, And I had walking tours arranged where we went to really cool places, a little bit stuff that I wanted to do, stuff that you wouldn't be able to do if you walked into London yourself. There's lots of stuff you could do, right? You could figure that out. You can go to hit all these iconic spots, but I wanted to find the things that were different, that maybe you wouldn't know about, that were amazingly cool. So that's the kind of thing I try to do. We took day trips out of the city. I knew some really cool restaurants. I found places that were bizarre and interactive, and we just had an amazing time. And then I upped my ante and I said, all right, Lord of the Rings. That was so I led a 16-day journey from the top of the North Island all the way down to the South Island, to Queenstown, the South Island, just following the Lord of the Rings and hitting all of those iconic spots. I found actors who were in the show. I found crew members who were on the show. I found the makeup artists who were on the show, and we hit them up, and they would either do a thing with us or they'd give a talk and hang out with us, join us for a meal, for drinks. And we had an incredible time. That was amazing. So that's what Quest Retreats is all about. Obviously, COVID. So and you and I were chatting at the top that my fiance and I were in Scotland. We were planning my next trip, and I want to do a whole Scottish adventure. Well, I will do that, but right now, COVID. So what I am planning, everything's getting jammed up because I'd already started this, but we're planning for December 2022. We have an African safari going. I haven't launched that yet, but I will be launching it soon. And so trying to fit in seasonally all of my ideas, because I definitely want to go back to New Zealand. I definitely want to go back to London. I definitely want to get the Scotland trip up. So yeah, I've got a lot of plans. And I'm very excited to be able to get it going again. And it will happen. It will happen. It's just a matter of everybody, being safe and healthy. Right. We'll open it up when we can. Thank you for asking. Appreciate it. Yeah.
So is there one role or moment or like something that, like, when you think of your career, like this encapsulates me as an actor, stunt person, or anything, on that in that particular thing? I know that's a heavy question. But... Wow,
you ask good questions, dude. Well, I think Barbara, I kind of lucked onto her. She's probably the closest. I love being on Babylon 5, don't get me wrong, but Lita was not an easy character to be in. That her head, that was a tough one. And to be honest, by the end of 5 years, I was okay with moving on, because that, like I said, being inside that mentality was tough. I don't know that I have had that experience yet. Is that a possibility? Like I'm still wondering where, as an actor, would that personally iconic role be? We'll see. But I really do love what I'm doing now, which is, like you said, the Quest Retreats. And I started over COVID, I've started another business called Magical Living. And that is still developing. But what I feel like is happening is that I really want to bring magic back to people's lives. As nerds, you know, we have the shows we love, we have the horror movies we love, we have the adventures that we love, like Lord of the Rings type things, or Harry Potter, or obviously sci-fi. These stories do something for us. So how do we bring that into every day? And how do we really elevate our lives so we get out of that sad, dark victim place and really blossom? Where's the awe? You know, that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm interested in doing. And that's what I'm trying to do in my retreats too. I always want to bring you into a place of amazement. I want to surprise you. I want you to have these experiences. Obviously, it's so fun to do it together on a trip, but we can do it online too. You know, we can do it together in other ways. So that's my next step, I think.
And I'll make sure to have, you know, the book and Quest for Trees and
anyway,
like in the show notes. So please, everybody, go check all those things out. They're either cool or they're also cool and extremely helpful.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
And Pat, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking to me about your amazing career. And for everybody out there, you know, think, oh, is she really that amazing in person? She's even more amazing. So,
oh my gosh, thank you so much. No, I really love it. I really appreciate it too. And you guys take care of yourselves and each other, and know that you're full of magic. You are. You're incredible beings, and we can find a way to make you believe that. That's what we all need, right? Belief in ourselves. Hey, I can do this thing. Yes, you can.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.